You break a law today. Here's what happens. A judge reads your sentence. You go to a room. You stay in that room until your time is up. Then you leave. That's it. For most of human history, that would have seemed insane. Not because it was too harsh. Because it was too easy. Ancient civilizations didn't send people to rooms. They sent a message. And the message had to be loud enough that every person who saw it never forgot it for the rest of their life. What they came up with was so creative, so deliberate, and so horrifying that most of it is too extreme to even describe on television today. Let's start with the worst one. Persia. 5th century BC. A man named Mithridates had killed a member of the royal family. King Artaxerxes wanted him to suffer. Not for an hour. Not for a day. For 17 days. His punishment was called Scaphism. They stripped him naked and strapped him between two boats. One on top, one on bottom, with his arms and legs hanging out through holes cut in the sides. Then they force-fed him milk and honey until he had severe diarrhea. They poured more honey over his exposed limbs, his face, his eyes, his mouth. Then they left him on a stagnant pond. The insects came. They bred inside him, ate him from the outside in. The rotting flesh drew more insects. He floated there for 17 days. The historian Plutarch documented this in detail. He wasn't exaggerating for effect. This was a state-sanctioned execution. But it gets worse when you realize Mithridates survived each day long enough to be force-fed again the next morning. They kept him alive on purpose. Greece. 6th century BC. A tyrant named Perillos went to the ruler of Agrigento with a gift. A life-size bronze bull. He had designed it himself. Inside was a hollow chamber just large enough for a human body. Beneath the belly, a door. Under the bull, a space for fire. The idea was simple. You put a condemned person inside. Lock the door. Light the fire. As the metal heated, the person inside would scream. But the bull's mouth was designed with a series of tubes and stops. That converted the screaming into the sound of a bellowing bull. The ruler was so horrified, he had Perillos executed inside it first, to test whether it worked. It did. The Brazen Bull was then used for centuries. The screaming crowd never heard the person. Only the bull. China. 900 AD. Lingchi. Translated as the slow process, or more commonly, death by 1,000 cuts. A condemned person was tied to a post in a public square. An executioner with a blade made cuts to the body. Not to kill. Not yet. The goal was to remove as much as possible, while keeping the person alive as long as possible. The process was codified. Regulated. There were manuals specifying exactly which cuts came in which order. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sadism for its own sake. It was theater. Lingchi was reserved for the worst crimes in Chinese law. Treason. Killing a parent. Crimes that weren't just against a person but against order itself. The punishment had to match the gravity of the crime. And the public had to watch. That was the point. Rome. 200 BC. A Roman general facing a battlefield mutiny had a problem. His soldiers had refused to fight. Thousands of them. He couldn't execute all of them. He needed most of them alive for the next battle. So he did something that only Rome could have invented. Decimation. He lined up every 10th man. The other 9 were given clubs. And they beat the 10th man to death. Your own unit. Your own people. The men you had camped with, hunted with, fought beside. The survivors had to live with what they had done. Which meant they had to live in complete obedience. Or face the same fate. The Latin word decimation literally means removal of a 10th. We still use it today. We just don't remember where it came from. Vikings. 8th century AD. The blood eagle. Historical sources describe it and historians still debate whether it was literal or symbolic. But the sources are clear about what it described. A captive was pinned face down. The ribs were cut from the spine, one by one. The lungs were pulled out through the back and spread like wings. It was performed on enemy kings and leaders, captured after battle. Not in a dungeon. In front of everyone. The message wasn't about the person being executed. The message was to every king, every rival, every witness watching. This is what it means to lose to us. Egypt. 1350 BC. Grave robbers in ancient Egypt faced a specific punishment, designed to fit their specific crime. You stole from the dead. So you would be mutilated, a nose and ears removed, and left alive. Disfigured. Marked. Everyone who saw your face for the rest of your life would know exactly what you had done. There was no hiding. No starting over in a new city. Your punishment was written on your body permanently. The Egyptians understood something modern justice often ignores. The most effective punishment isn't always the most painful one. Sometimes it's the most visible one. Mesopotamia. 1754 BC. Hammurabi's Code. 282 laws carved into an 8-foot stone pillar. And placed in the center of Babylon. So that everyone could read them. Some of the punishments seem familiar. An eye for an eye. A tooth for a tooth. But here's what people miss about Hammurabi's Code. It was one of the first times in human history that punishment was written down and made consistent. Before that, justice depended entirely on who you knew. Rich men walked free. Poor men died. Hammurabi changed that. If a builder constructed a house that collapsed and killed the owner's son, the builder's son was executed. Not the builder. The builder's son. That sounds barbaric to us now. But in 1754 BC, it was radical. It meant the powerful weren't above the law. It meant the law applied to everyone. It was the beginning of the idea that justice could exist at all. So here's the question. Why? Why were these punishments so extreme? What were they actually trying to do? The answer is the same across every civilization. Ancient societies didn't have police forces. They didn't have prisons that cost money to run. They didn't have forensic science or surveillance. They had one tool. Fear. Visible, public, unforgettable fear. When 90% of your population can't read. When there are no newspapers, no cameras, no social media, the only law that works is the law people see with their own eyes. A man executed in a public square reached every single person in that city. The story spread for generations. Modern justice locks people away where no one can see them. Ancient justice made punishment the loudest thing in the city. Both are trying to solve the same problem. How do you stop people from hurting each other? Ancient civilizations answered, make the consequence so visible. So extreme, so impossible to forget, that no one would dare. We decided that was too brutal. So we built prisons instead. And crime didn't disappear. It just got less visible. I wouldn't mind sub and like to the channel so. Tonight, somewhere in the world, a judge will hand down a sentence. The convicted will be taken to a room. Fed 3 times a day. Given access to books, television, and exercise. And somewhere, historians are writing about our justice system. The same way we write about the Brazen Bull. With horror. With fascination. Wondering what we were thinking. Every civilization believes its justice is the right kind. Every civilization is eventually proven wrong. The only question is what the next one builds instead. END.